All right, so you haven't seen this person in well over a year now, but I messaged him about a year ago since our last podcast came out, and I figured we need to do a part two to our Kiss Information podcast episode. So I'm once again joined with Benjamin Embassy. You might have seen his tweet on Twitter about Argentina because it did pop off. So welcome back, Benjamin.
Yeah, great to be here. Yeah, it was a good chat last time. And yeah, happy to be back on your podcast.
Awesome. So, sorry, let me just shut this down. So, as a starting point, I mean, I've been following, we follow each other on Twitter. I've been keeping up with what you're doing. We've sort of talked a little bit on and off in the DMs and sharing voice notes and that. Actually, we had a very long chat when I was in Croatia, actually, right before I got poisoned in Croatia. So, that was lucky timing. So I guess seeing on your Twitter, you've done a lot of Argentina stuff. You've slated India. You've gone close to some pretty tense borders. So I mean, let's just start off. Was this year all about traveling around the world for you then?
No, it actually wasn't. I actually didn't want to travel. So it was kind of a funny situation. So I had a job in the investment migration industry at the start of the year. And then basically I left that company around the start of the year, like first couple of months. And at that time I was in Europe. I was based in Europe. And I was like, well, now there's not really any reason for me to be in Europe. So I basically slowly headed east and circumnavigated the globe, trying to find the ideal place to live. So it took me to quite a few weird places.
Yeah, I mean,
so it wasn't about travel. I genuinely didn't want to travel. It was just out of trying to find where is the ideal place. And I tried different regions, like obviously Western Europe, like Southern Europe, like Portugal. I tried Central Asia a little bit, like on the cusp of Europe. Then I tried Southeast Asia. Then I tried what would you call it, East Asia, like Japan. And then I flew over the Pacific, went to the States, flew down, went to South America. So I basically circumnavigated the globe around the long way around.
Well, Captain Bly's very jealous of you then if he's hearing this from the grave. So that's a good thing. Well, I mean, I saw it. Just asking, is that firm that you started working for? Is that like the tweets that you were making when you took a picture of your passport, your watch, and there was some business card there? Was that firm?
Yeah, but they've changed their name now. That was just I just thought the picture looked cool because it was like your sovereignty toolkit, your passport, you have a good watch, and you use this platform to get your next passport, get your next citizenship.
Yeah, so what was it working for that company? Because I'll be honest with you, Benja, I don't remember the name. But what was it like working for them? Because if you're only there for a couple months, I can't, and I don't want you to start slating them if you don't want to, but I can't imagine it was that good if you're only there for a couple months.
No, it was basically an amazing experience. Because obviously, I'm pretty young. I think you're even younger than me, but I was always the youngest person in the room there. I was the least experienced person in the room. And I think that's a great environment to learn and grow. If you're the youngest and the least experienced in the room, you're in the right room. And it was being around these serial entrepreneurs. And it wasn't like a traditional business. It was a tech startup. So, for me, going into that company, I thought I knew everything about business. And I realized, wow, I know nothing about startups. And I just learned an incredible amount of stuff. And I think it was a great experience, basically.
So are you telling me that they didn't teach you adequate levels of business in school? Because I'm struggling to believe that right now. Because schools always teach you everything you need to know. At least that's what I was told. So I'm baffled to hear that you had to learn it practically. I thought writing a simple essay, you'd know everything about business. But I guess all the teachers were wrong. No, but that's very cool. And actually, one thing that I liked about it is, so you went eastwards and then you crossed over into the Western Hemisphere from the Pacific. Did you enter any new country that you hadn't yet been to?
Well, yeah, basically, going east, all of those countries were new. Because, I hadn't really, I'd technically been to Asia, in Istanbul, like in Eastern Turkey. But like, yeah, if you want to class that as Asia or not. But yeah, let's just say real Asia. This was my first time going to real Asia.
Well, you've been to Asia. Well, you went to Asia Minor. Then it's the same as me. I went to Cyprus. Geographically, I've been to Asia, but I don't think that's a fair thing to say that I've
very
I've been to Asia.
European. Yeah, very culturally. I mean, it's the EU. Come on, we can't call it Asia.
Well, geographically, we can, but geopolitically,
it's
but geopolitically, no, it's definitely not Asia.
Yeah, but that was like, okay. So talking about that experience, so the first country, so it was like, for me, it was a new experience every single time, because it was like, wow, I'm going the most eastward I've ever been. So it was like, number one was Georgia, the country of Georgia, and that was very interesting because it has a lot of attractive things for entrepreneurs, right? You can just enter the country and you get 1 year visa free on arrival. You can open a bank account in 1 hour with just your passport. And, it's also like an EU candidate. It's trying to be very European facing, but for me, it was just very, very underdeveloped. Like, I think it's going to be a long time before they join the EU. It really didn't feel, I mean, even the poorer EU countries like Romania and Bulgaria, it's a long way down from there.
Oh, well, I could certainly imagine. I mean, it's one thing to say, oh yeah, you could have a nice lifestyle in Batumi and look at the skyline. There are skyscrapers and high-rise buildings everywhere. But I mean, when you look at Georgia more deeply, I don't want to get into the geopolitical aspects of it because I can't stand the whole lane that podcasts go down. But you've got Abkhazia, South Ossetia over there too. You've got very low wages if you're trying to get a job there. They don't allow dual nationality. Yeah, it's mental. They don't allow dual nationality, which is actually kind of mad. I think they might allow it for exception because I think NC got Georgian citizenship, although that is just a rumour that I heard on a couple of forums.
Oh, yeah, he definitely has it. He was friends with the ex-president, but now that guy is in jail. He was like best friends with the... I don't know. I don't really understand Georgian politics, but speaking to Georgian people, this is my experience. I was there for a few months. So my experience was they all basically are very, very anti-Russia, very pro-Western. Obviously there's a lot of Russian people living there, and they're very, because obviously do I look Georgian or do I look Russian? I obviously look more Russian, and they don't, especially in a place like Batumi, they definitely don't get many Western tourists. So it's like they automatically think you're Russian, and they do treat you very badly. And that's what I found, like going in, like, because I was there with my friend who's also from the UK, and it was the same thing for them as well. Like going into stores, the shopkeepers were very rude to you. People weren't very helpful, and it was a bit too Eastern European. Like it was a bit too post-Soviet for me, where people are just all never happy, and it just was quite a depressing place. But obviously you know about Batumi. I never said I was there, but it's a pretty recognizable city from the photos, from the skyline. And it's a very weird place because obviously there's a lot of investment. At one point Trump was going to build a skyscraper in Batumi, and it looks amazing at night and photos, but the reality is it's like it's just a very dysfunctional city. It's just built for tourism, basically. It's built for summer tourism, and it's built for like Turkish people to come over the border and gamble and stuff like this.
Well, yeah, 100%. I mean, and that's also one thing that I really don't like about this whole. I like the way you put it. This economic migration industry. I'll start saying that I'm in that realm once I hit 1,000 subscribers. So I'm not going to say it just yet. But people often advertise a country like it's the best place on earth with no downsides. Well, you take a country like Georgia, and I must caveat this by saying that I have never been. So you will definitely have more knowledge on this. Practical knowledge on this than I would, but I mean, if we look at their passport, it's not terrible, but it's not that great either. They don't allow dual nationality unless you're probably like Andrew Henderson or something, or maybe you have very good contacts in the higher ups. And all in all, I mean, what you just said about your experience is that whole kind of depressing Eastern European vibe lifestyle. I'll be honest with you, that is kind of what you still see in developed European Union countries that used to be in the former Iron Curtain. It's quite interesting. This seems to be, for me, an issue with the older generations. Because, like, I was in Hungary, and, obviously I'm speaking Hungarian, so maybe there's a little bit of a dynamic that you wouldn't get if you were just a tourist. But I'm speaking Hungarian, and I'm speaking with young people, and they're sound, like they're sound as hell. Like they're fully Western now. They're just like you and me, but they speak a different language and they have a different accent and a different name naturally. But the older generations, this whole thing of please and thank you, that old-fashioned British diplomacy, it just doesn't exist. And actually, what surprised me, and this is not just one country, this is all former Iron Curtain countries, but some Western countries as well, is that racism in the older generations is still very prevalent.
Yeah. I mean, I've also extensively traveled in Eastern Europe and traveled to the post-Soviet countries, and I would say like Georgia by far is I've been to Ukraine as well. I've been to like Kharkiv right next to the Russian border, and Georgia was by far the most prevalent place where you really felt this. It was by far the most depressing, rude people. I mean, most people don't want to say things how they are, but I don't really care. Like, I found the people in Georgia very, very rude. And, for me, like when I've been in places like Hungary, Poland, Bulgaria, Romania, Ukraine, people have been like very, very friendly. I know what you mean though about like older people, and they're obviously still culturally more like the Soviet ways or whatever, and it's like, but it's still the most I ever experienced it was in Georgia.
But why do you think that is? Because like obviously you see a lot of protests there, and they're throwing the name of it has escaped me, but when they put a cloth in a bottle of vodka and set the cloth on fire, and then they throw it.
A Molotov.
Yes, a Molotov cocktail. That's right. Yeah. So sorry, that just the name escaped me. But they're protesting a lot. They're throwing Molotov cocktails everywhere in the protest. They're getting tear gassed. But it's just a bunch of like very pro EU stuff. And I like free movement. I like the whole idea of open border Schengen area. But even I don't go on my knees that much for it.
Yeah, but I understand it. It's like I think that's what it is. It's like, dude, they think they're so close to Europe. They really think, come on, guys. We're going to get this EU, but you go there and it's like, someone that actually comes from the EU, you look at it and you're just like, this just is never going to be, it's like 2 decades away from being in the EU. And yeah, I mean, it's just like, they really think of them. It's like in their heads, they're European, this is a European country. But you just look at it and you look at how people act, you look at, everything about it. It's just not European. It just doesn't fit. So, yeah.
But geographically, I mean, I know we've touched upon this a little bit with Cyprus and East Constantinople, East Istanbul, but it's not even in Europe geographically. Like it's in the Caucasus kind of. I mean, if Georgia's Europe, then so's Armenia at that point, and so's Azerbaijan.
I mean, they say like Georgia really is the last country that can claim that it's European, and I understand why it's seen as European, because it, like, if you look at like history, it would be considered European, but I'm talking about like the modern day EU. I wouldn't say it fits in. No. But yeah, like I haven't been to Armenia or Azerbaijan, but I would say Armenia is probably 50-50. Azerbaijan definitely Asia, but yeah, it's just like it's a very weird country. And then, going from there, going eastwards, I went to everybody's favorite country in the world, India.
Sorry, just before we go on to India, can I just ask, because I'm curious about this, because nationalism for me is an absolute psyop. Obviously I have 2 passports. I grew up in multiple places. I can't be a nationalist. It's impossible. Did you get treated differently once they knew you were British and not Russian in Georgia?
Well, I mean, like, if they could speak English, then... I mean, of course, they were like, oh, you're from England, I love England, they had very positive things, because of course it's like, it's probably the same if anyone from an EU country, I love X country because they want to be, so it was like, but it's still like the cultural aspect of them being pretty, but to answer your question, they were pretty polite to me. And they had like positive things to say about the UK, basically.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'd like to hear what positive things they had to say, because maybe it's something I haven't heard yet. So let's move on to everyone's favourite country, India. Now, I will admit, Indian food goes very hard. So does the flag. so it's like you go to India, and I think I remember you put on Twitter something like, "I've only been here for 3 hours. It's a failed society, and I'm leaving." So let's
Yeah.
talk about India. What on earth happened in India with
So
you?
so basically, what happened was, so it was cheapest. It was like, well, it was basically the only way because I was in Georgia, and it was like the only way to get to Southeast Asia was basically to stop off in India and have unless I wanted to like fly back to Western Europe. So it was like, it was the cheapest and it was the fastest route. So I planned to basically have like a 24-hour layover in Delhi and go see
Okay.
Delhi. And I just got to the airport, and basically it was like, when you go through airports and you just feel the stress, it just feels stressful. And it
Yeah.
was like, number one, it was like you had to go through security. Like you got off the plane, you went through security. And it was like they were like, take every single electronic item out of your bag, even cables. So it was like, I imagine I have like a backpack, I have a suitcase. It's like I had to go in, get every single cable out. Like and then like they were like scrubbing down everything, I guess testing for explosives or drugs or something. And it was just like so, like everyone was like so on edge. Like you could it was just like everyone was a Westerner basically off that flight, or they were Georgian, they weren't Indians. It was like you could just look around, like everyone was so on edge. And then I like went into the bathroom, and it was just absolutely disgusting. It was just like, I was just like, I don't even want to go into the country. Like I just looked at my phone, saw there was a flight like 2 hours from now, and I just booked it and got that flight instead of go. Like sorry, I'm even missing points. I got off the plane. Even before we landed, you couldn't even see Delhi because the smog was so thick. And we got off the plane, and this was like early morning, and the sky was all orange. Not from a beautiful sunrise, but just because it was so polluted with smog, and you got off the plane and you just couldn't even breathe. And I was just like, I don't even want to go into the city. It was that bad.
So what country did you escape to then in those 2 hours?
So basically, I went to Thailand, and
Okay.
that was like, so basically how my travel has been. It's always been like a very bad country, very good, very bad, very good. So it's like then I arrived in Thailand, and I felt like a sigh of relief, because I was like, when you're like, I sat next to this cool guy on the plane from Germany, and he was also like, yeah, he actually went into Delhi, so it was kind of funny like talking about his experience. And then just like arriving in Thailand, and like, it was kind of my first time being around Westerners for like 4 or 5 months, because in Georgia I really didn't, apart from my friend that was there with me, there really wasn't many Westerners there. I met a few older people, but no one my sort of age in Georgia. And then it was like, you go to Bangkok, and it's like everyone's a backpacker from the UK, right? Like it's just full of backpackers from the UK, Australia, etc. And it was like really good speaking to native English speakers again, etc. And yeah, Thailand's a really cool place, but I wouldn't recommend it to live. A lot of guys recommend, like, when you're young, go live there, start a business from there. I wouldn't say it's the place to do that. I would say if you want to just have fun for 2 weeks, go to Thailand.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the main reason why they advertise Thailand is because they say, "Oh, this is what $300 gets you a month of rent, and it's like a
Yeah,
penthouse on the top of a skyscraper." But again, it's like every place has good and bad, right? Like I'm like, even in Budapest, there are streets that you just don't go down if you want to live. I'm sure Bangkok has the same. Every city, Batumi probably has the same. London, pretty much every street now has that. So, like,
yeah.
every place has good and bad. But like, I'm glad you got out of India then, because I thought, well, New Delhi. I mean, do you ever think you might go back to India, maybe to a different city like Mumbai
No,
or
no, no,
anywhere?
no. Like for me, just to put this into perspective, I used to want to visit every single country in the world. Like I didn't care. I was like, I'll go anywhere. And just, I think because I've traveled so much over the past few years, you just realize that travel isn't, um, it's really overrated, and going to these third world countries is not fun. People, you look at these TikTokers, these influencers, whatever, posting these 1 minute reels showing you the best. Like there'll be some guy, I'm sure, posting reels about India saying how it's the best country in the world and cherry picking these little things. But it's literally like, I have no desire to go to these. Like I used to want to visit, every country in the world. Go to like sub-Saharan Africa, go to India, go to Bangladesh, go to Pakistan, and I just don't have any desire to go to these third world countries anymore. Like, it really does take a toll on you after you, and like after, it's just not for me, basically.
Well, yeah, I totally get that point, and it's also like the example I could say to that is I saw a video. Actually, I'm not a TikTok user, but I saw someone I follow who curates a bunch of mental stuff that she finds on the internet. Right. She shared this one video where these two Americans, a couple, a guy and a man and a woman, they flew to Tajikistan of all places, and they land in Dushanbe. And they get off the plane and everything, and she's doing, and the video is like, so this is such a weird place. They have massive painted portraits of the president everywhere, and you have to bow, which I don't think is true. I think she just made that up. Right. But the president is everywhere on huge posters, which is always a good sign that you're in a developed free country when there's that massive cult of personality there. And she's like, yeah, so we're driving through the. I don't remember the mountain range, but there's a mountain range on the border with Tajikistan and Afghanistan, which is where like a bunch of people were hiding out in the early 2000s after 9/11. It's a bit of a weird place, and I'm like, why would you go there? Like, Dushanbe looks nice, fine. So does Ashgabat, so does Astana, so does Bishkek, that's fine. But why would you go to a place like that and then while you're in the country start slating it? It didn't make any sense to me.
No, I do kind of understand it though, because it's nothing to do with like, I think you can go to countries that are dictatorships as a tourist, and like as long as you don't, that's the thing, in a place like Tajikistan or whatever, as long as you don't criticize the leader, you're going to be fine. You probably don't have to worry about being robbed, like getting food poisoning and like all of these kind of things. Where the reason I don't like a place like India is because it's just like, I just hate like chaos, and it's just not like a nice place to be, where, everyone's trying to scam you. The streets there's open sewers everywhere. Everything you eat gives you food poisoning. Everyone's trying to scam you. And that's what I mean. It's like where I can see how going to a place like Tajikistan could be pretty interesting tourism experience. So it's just like, that's what I mean. It's not like against like I would happily go to countries that are like that, and it like not to support the country, but just because it is an interesting experience, and you probably will be fine. Where in a place like India, it's so uncontrollable what's going to happen to you. You have like a million different things that can happen to you, and that's kind of what I don't like about it.
Would you ever go to North Korea?
See, that like I probably would go to North Korea, but like I wouldn't want to, but I probably would. Like, it's not on the top of my list of things to do, but like I probably would, because it's like the type of place. It's like, as long as you don't do anything stupid, you probably will be fine. Where in India, it's like just crossing the street is like trying to survive. Like, it's just
I'm literally on the borderline of Slovakia, which is kind of mad. But so sometimes I hop in and hop out. But like, so I'm on the border, and this is a region of Hungary that no one goes to. Not one foreigner, not one tourist. The only people you see are university students who are maybe from the Emirates or something, which I found kind of mad that someone from the Emirates is in this tiny city in Hungary.
Yeah.
But we're driving there from Budapest, and it's about 3 hours, and the roads are completely perfect. I'm talking better condition, better quality than that of the German Autobahn. Yeah. And also, what's mad is there's a guy, an English guy who I know quite well. He is like, I think he's in his 70s now. He spent he grew up in London. He then moved to Wales for a job. He now lives in Hungary, in rural Hungary, where no one goes. This is a small town that you can't even find updated pictures of it on the internet. He lives there with his family, and he is living a better life, and he says this to anyone who asks, he said this to me, than he would ever live in London. And all of his English friends are saying, man, I wish I could move to Hungary and live like you, because think about it, super cheap, very good lifestyle. He literally lives like a king. So I think you're going to start seeing a lot more people from Western countries moving to, and this is horrible to say, poorer countries for a better life.
Well, it's already happening. You know, I know many like quite wealthy British people that are leaving. They're mainly going to places like Cyprus and Spain, which I think makes sense. Like for people that want to retire, you know, they want the better climate. But that's interesting. Yeah, I know a few people that are doing this in Eastern Europe, and the reason why the roads are so good in Eastern Europe is because the EU paid for them all basically, and Germany invested all this money into like basically Eastern Europe's infrastructure while not really focusing on their own infrastructure. That's why the roads are so good in Poland. It
Yeah,
was all
but
like
then
paid
also
for by the EU.
But then also, I mean, I'm sure that's true. But then, you know, I'm not saying this for Poland or Hungary. There are some other countries in the eastern part of Europe that are now in European Union where it's very common that they get a lot of funding and then the money disappears and then someone suddenly gets a pay rise. So
Which country
you know
are you talking about?
that could. Well, there's some in European Union. There's some in not European Union. There's to be honest, that's not a country thing. That's a regional thing. Sadly, that still happens.
But I mean, it literally happens in the UK, but people don't see it as corruption, right? You think about HS2. How much money did that cost? Or is it going to cost? I don't know, multiple billions. But it's like, that's exactly the same thing. It's just these companies give the highest quote they can to the government possible because it's the government. The government's going to pay for it. And it's corruption in the exact same way. But it's probably a bit more obvious in Eastern Europe. And in Western Europe, people don't see it as corruption. But just something about you living on the border. Does Slovakia, do they currently have like Schengen border checks?
No, they don't.
Oh, is that Slovenia? Because I remember you were saying one of them. Oh, okay.
Slovenia has border control with.
Yeah.
Slovenia has border control with Italy, Croatia, Hungary, any Schengen country that it borders. I believe Austria it has it with it as well. But it's only going in, it's not going out. So if you leave Slovenia, no problem. If you go into Slovenia, they always check. But Slovakia doesn't. In fact, I entered Slovakia on a very tiny road, so it wasn't even the main highway. So no border checks in between Hungary and Slovakia. Although some of the locals did say that always walk on the street, don't walk on a random field, because there might still be like mines there from the Soviet times, like to ensure people didn't defect, which is apparently still a thing between Austria and Hungary. So if you're going to try and cross countries, don't do it on a random field just in case. Use an actual street, go through an actual road. Don't say, oh, that field looks nice, let me walk through it, because I'm not saying it will happen, but even the locals said that there's probably still a chance that there is something there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the amazing thing about the EU. You know, I remember like crossing from like Belgium into the Netherlands and cycling through the border, and it was like I didn't even notice the border. I just like we were like, are we still? And then I remember like going to a store and we're like, oh, we're in the Netherlands now. Like there wasn't even a sign. It was that small of a road. But yeah, it's crazy. It's like the only place in the world that has borders like that.
Yeah, it is. Actually, what do you think about Belgium? Because this summer when I was in Europe again, I got some opinions on Belgium. So I'm curious to find out what you think about it as a country.
To answer your question about Belgium, what do I think of Belgium? I mean, I remember like going to Brussels at first when I was like 16, and I was like, wow, I remember because me and my friend went there. Like our parents really didn't want us to go because we were 16. They like let us take a Flixbus to Brussels to go see the city, and I remember getting off the bus, and there was all these police there with dogs, and they were like the bus driver was literally like, I'm not letting you guys get off on your own. And he like walked us over to the police and was like, wait here, like with these guys. And the police were literally like, yeah, if you got off this bus on your own, they would just rob you and take your suitcases. And they were like, where's your hotel, whatever, like we'll help you get out of this area. Because I think it must have been the bus station was that bad in Brussels. It was like, and this was when I was 16. So this was like 6-7 years ago now.
Damn. Well, for me, I don't have an experience like that in Belgium.
Yeah.
I've been
That's
to
probably
Belgium
what you weren't
numerous
expecting.
times. Yeah. Well, actually, do you know what? It doesn't surprise me at all because Belgium is failed on every sense of the word. I don't think it should be a country. Like, do you know what? This was the final straw for me. Even their license plates look ugly. Like, when have you ever heard that? Oh, this national license plate looks bad. Belgium sucks. The,
Wait,
I don't know
which
what.
ones are they? I don't remember what they look like. I know that
Okay,
the
so
Netherlands has orange on both sides.
yeah, so it's like it's like a white background, but with like a
Yeah.
very weird maroon brown color that
Right.
is very readable, but
I'll
it's
Google
also
it.
hard to read. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, right? It's actually painful to look at when you're on the road. I can't, I can't stand it.
Oh, because it has the red letters. Yeah, it's ugly. Yeah,
Yeah,
because of the red letters.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
I
for me,
like the
that was the
Dutch
final
ones.
straw.
I mean,
Oh yeah,
most
the
people probably don't like the orange, but I like the double orange on the Dutch ones. It's quite cool.
Yeah, to be honest, Dutch ones aren't bad. It was just like I didn't like Belgium anyway. It's a boring place for me. Like there's
Yeah,
no
so
national
boring.
identity there.
Yeah.
Like what is a Belgian? I don't know genuinely. Like
But
I actually don't
yeah.
think they have anything to stand on. But like when
The
I saw that
countryside is
license
beautiful,
plate,
though. Like absolutely
maybe,
beautiful in the countryside.
yeah,
I
but
remember,
can't
like,
you get that in like France and the Netherlands though as well?
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, my experience because I cycled from Belgium,
Yeah.
from Brussels to Amsterdam, and it was like so beautiful. I mean, I remember we were just in like these small towns, so peaceful, so beautiful. But yeah, Brussels has to be the worst capital city in Europe, like by far.
Yeah, well, to be honest, it doesn't surprise me. Everyone who's been there says that there's nothing to do. So
What do you
even
think
like
the
with the
best-
danger.
Yeah, what do you think the best EU capital city is?
Capital city. Okay, so I would. Capital city is a tough one. Do you know what? I would say it would. Budapest is definitely up there. So
Yeah.
it would either be Budapest or. Yeah, Budapest. It was either Budapest or Vienna, but there's more to do in Budapest, in my opinion. So
Right.
I'd say Budapest.
Yeah, Budapest it's a really cool city. Like I like Budapest a lot.
Yeah, yeah, because like Vienna's up there too, but
I
Budapest
also
is a
like
bit
Prague,
more
though.
affordable.
For me, Prague was more. I liked Prague more than Budapest though.
Did
For
you?
like
Do you
visiting,
know what
I
I
would
thought?
say. Yeah, what? Go ahead.
No, I thought I would too. I thought I would like Prague too, but
Right.
for me, I don't know. I don't know where you were. I was near the train station. It's quite dirty over there, so there's a lot of dog poo everywhere. So for me, that
Right.
was my experience with Prague. Once you get into the city centre, it's great, but on the outskirts near the train station, it's a little bit run down. Whereas in Budapest, you
Right.
never see anything like that.
Yeah, I don't remember where I was exactly, but I remember it being very, very nice, and everywhere I went was very, very nice. I found Budapest because I think it was like in Prague. It was a bit. People were a bit more friendly than Budapest, I would say. It was
Yeah.
a bit. It had a more, like I would say Prague is a bit more compact. It's very easy to get around. You can walk to a lot of places. Budapest, I felt very safe, and it's like a very interesting city. But it feels a bit more lurking of the Iron Curtain in Budapest compared to Prague. Like you feel that culture a little bit more.
Maybe, and I also think like the whole Uralic side of it is also makes it a little bit different. Like the Parliament building in Budapest is not architecture that you really see anywhere else in the world. All those
that
white-
is amazing.
yeah.
For sure. Yeah,
yeah,
And
but
going
I
on
love
top of
Prague
the
too.
hill,
Yes.
opposite. Yeah, that's an amazing place to go.
Yeah, where the Roman pillars are.
Yeah,
Yeah. To
Well,
watch
you know
the
what?
sunset.
Yeah, that like hill on the other side of the river, and you go up and you can see the whole city, and that was really cool.
Yeah, near the new White Bridge. Yeah, I'm very familiar with that place. With the
In Budapest,
Roman
that was
pillars.
where I stayed next to the Central Market. You know that
Oh,
place?
awesome.
Yeah. Which is
yeah.
very central, right? Like very easy, very centrally located. But yeah, I would say the worst European capital city is Brussels. The best, I would say, like for living, I would say, because I really love Amsterdam, but like outside of the tourist area, I know you hate Amsterdam, but that's because you were in the tourist areas. If you go outside of the tourist areas, well, it's kind of the Netherlands. I love the Netherlands. I mean, I also had like a negative experience in Madrid. My phone got stolen, and that's the only time it's ever happened to me where I've had something stolen from me. And
How
Madrid
did it happen?
it was on the metro, like pickpocketing.
Oh, I see.
So-
Okay.
Yeah. Madrid felt a little bit soulless to me, which I didn't expect, because I speak a bit of Spanish and I love like the Latin world, the Latin culture, etc. But Madrid did feel soulless. So yeah.
Well, Spain is a because I've gone a little bit rogue on Twitter whenever I talk about Spain, and I like Spain. I think the flag
Yeah.
is far too complex. I'm also more of a
Yeah.
republic kind of guy, so come on. But for me, I look at because my two favorite skylines in the world, city wise. I'm not talking about the economy or the standard of living, just how the city looks. Two favourite would be Gold Coast down in Queensland and Panama City. But up there, number 3 would be
Really, Panama
Benidorm in
City?
Spain.
Yeah, Benidorm
Pardon?
does look good. Funnily enough, Benidorm does look surprisingly good.
It
Like,
looks amazing,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I would never, ever, ever go there. Same principle with Ibiza,
Yeah.
Gran Canaria, Mallorca, because I know what type of people go there, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to go as far away as possible from these places. So I will never see Benidorm, which sucks because I think it looks great, but I'm not going through all that.
Yeah, we both know. If you're British, you know what we're talking about. The type of people that go to Benidorm. But yeah, for me, because I do speak Spanish, like I can actually go to the local areas, but you really do have to speak Spanish in Spain, or you'll get treated like one of those British people. Yeah, especially in Benidorm and wherever.
Yeah, it's an absolute tragedy because I'm really not for the whole Adidas tracksuit, turkey teeth, turkey hair, fake tan all over the place. It's like, bro, you've actually ruined a city which is mad. They've actually ruined it. Like I don't.
I mean, they
agree
even
with
have a
this
whole TV show about it, like in the
Oh,
UK.
do they?
I've never actually watched it, but there's a TV show that's very popular called Benidorm. You must have heard of it. It's like a very popular comedy TV show.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but it's not really my type of thing. I thought you meant that the Spaniards had a TV show that mocks the tourists, because that would be great. Yeah,
but
that would be great.
But like, this is what I would say to anybody wanting to visit Spain: don't go to a place like Benidorm, whatever. Go to a city like Seville, and Seville is like the old Spain. It's like so beautiful. Some of the best food I've ever had. And also, like, a very interesting place to also visit. Like, Malaga is also a very good city as well. Very livable. One of the most livable cities in the world. Very safe, very clean. It even has a metro, and it's, like, right on the ocean. Also, like, I would recommend visiting Gibraltar as well. That was one of the most interesting places I've ever been to.
Yeah, let's talk about Gibraltar. It's actually been in the news recently. We've been having some interaction on Twitter, but I remember we were talking over voice messages, and you said that you had quite an interesting experience at the Gibraltarian, or whatever their demonym is, border between the Spanish border and the technically British border.
Well, it's not technically British. It is British.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically the border guards, just if you're British, they give you a bit of a hard time, and they're a bit rude to you. And it's just it's not a nice experience. But hopefully they do join Schengen in the next 30 days, because the new EU, not the ETIS, the other thing, where they're going to introduce fingerprint and facial recognition. And that's, basically, I think the UK and Spain are going to sign a deal over Gibraltar before November 10th. So when they join Schengen, it's going to be a very attractive place to live. Because I don't think you really want to live there now. And every time you want to go into Spain, you have to go through the border. They just give you like a hard time. Basically, it's not a very nice experience.
Yeah, no, but like with that, if Gibraltar, because like you said, Gibraltar is the UK, right? So you have right of abode there if you have a British passport. If Gibraltar joins the Schengen area, that is going to be a huge loophole. But then I guess. But then because you know what the mentality of a lot of people is like. I think a lot of people would go, I'm gonna do this, but then they'll never do it. They'll never even get on the flight. They'll never even leave the island. I think a lot of people will say, oh, I'm going to Gibraltar to get EU access again. They're never touching that peninsula.
Yeah, and also you do actually have to like have an address there. You have to like register your house and stuff. So it's like, like I don't think it would work with just showing up. Like you would actually have to, like, register your address, etc., and then get an actual Gibraltar ID card to prove that you live there to be able to stay in Schengen. So I do see like Gibraltar's property prices increasing a lot if this does happen, because for a lot of wealthy British people that makes way more sense than Spain now if they're part of Schengen. Like buy a house in Gibraltar, you basically have way better tax situation, 300 days of sun per year, and you can just drive to Marbella in an hour. Like, because I had a car and I was like driving between like Marbella and Malaga, Gibraltar, and it's like an amazing, like that part of Spain is absolutely amazing. Yeah, it's a great place.
Yeah, 100%. And like, when you think about it, like it's actually a great incentive if people want that EU access again. Because if we think about the options that are available now by investment, let's say, if you can't get a work visa or what have you, you have Malta. But if you don't have 1.2 million euros, or if you're not willing to spend that much, that program's not going to work. What else do you have? You have, I think Greece does a golden visa. Hungary does a golden visa.
Is the most popular in the world. So, but they just increased the price now. So it used to be like 250,000. Now it's like over 400,000 in a property. But I think Cyprus has the best, but it's non-Schengen. If they join Schengen, that program is going to be the most popular because it's 300k PR. You don't pay anything on dividends. It's like one of the best places from a tax perspective, and also lifestyle, because obviously Cyprus was British. There's a lot of British influence, and I think like Cyprus is actually the better option for British people, other than Spain, to be honest.
Oh yeah, no, I agree totally. And actually, Cyprus is. I went to Cyprus this year. It's actually one of my favorite places on the earth. Like, I think it's so. But I say that actually. Do you know what? Cyprus sucks. Don't go there, because I don't want a lot of people to start going there.
I'm watching this YouTuber. I've never actually been, but I'm watching this YouTuber, and he's got me so like. His Cyprus propaganda is so good that I'm literally considering moving to Cyprus.
Is it the German guy, Rico?
Yeah, it's Rico, yeah. He has the best Cyprus propaganda. Like, he's really selling Cyprus well.
Well, do you know what I love about Cyprus? Is obviously that the weather is better than Spain, Portugal, Gibraltar. It's better. The other good thing is that obviously I'm talking about the Greek side, is that Cyprus is quite a diversified country anyway, because on the street, perhaps not on the signs, but what are the three major ethnicities or nationalities in Cyprus? You have the Greeks. And again, I'm going to ignore the Turkish north here. You have the Greeks, you have the British, and you have the Russians. So you have the Greek language, the English language, and the Russian language.
So there's
a lot of
when
we talk about, loads. There's loads, but they're lovely. Like even in the supermarket, shout out to Valentina. She'll always be in my memory. Like such a lovely person, and it's a great place language diversification wise. Even the Greek locals are very nice. It's quite cheap, and actually, one thing that I love about it is that you don't really feel, maybe on a national level you might do, and it depends where you go, but even the tourists there weren't as bad as the tourists in Portugal and the whole of the Iberian Peninsula. Cyprus is still quite an untouched place in that regard, where there are still a few type of people who would go to Benidorm and Mallorca who go to Cyprus, but it's nowhere near as much, and it hasn't been ruined.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like, growing up, you always have these two types of British people. The ones that go to Spain and the ones that go to the south of France. And I think it's more the south of France people that probably go to Cyprus.
Yeah.
Cyprus sounds amazing. It really does.
It does. And it's actually amazing. Like another key benefit of this is that they have the English plug sockets, so it's the best plug socket in the world.
Well, don't they?
Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. And actually, I was saying this to everyone who I went to, because obviously I lived in Florida. Florida is a lot more humid, wet. Obviously, there was just a major hurricane. All of my friends and former teachers were evacuated, so Florida is very tropical in climate.
Were you living in Tampa, St. Pete area?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I was just in St. Peter's. I really like that.
Were you? Yeah. It's great actually.
Were you in St. Pete or in Tampa?
I was in Tampa, but we went to St. Pete all the time, because St. Pete has a. What does St. Pete have? You cross the bridge, which is like half an hour,
Yeah,
away.
yeah, it's very, very long. Yeah.
Yeah, but St. Pete has like more museums and it's kind of more old fashioned, whereas Tampa
Yeah,
it
it's
has the
walkable.
skyline. Yeah,
Yeah, St.
exactly.
Pete
Yeah,
is like this walkable, compact city, and it's kind of up and coming. I think a lot of like entrepreneurs, creative type people are living there. Like, there's a lot of cool coffee shops, and it had like
yeah,
this up and coming vibe. Yeah,
yeah. St. Pete is cool. I will say I do prefer Tampa. Actually, although my favorite place in Florida was either there's a kind of a Greek
I've heard
cultural
about this.
place
Yeah,
called
I've heard about this. Yeah,
Tarpon Springs, which is actually very
yeah.
cool. Like
I want to visit that
I
place. Yeah.
like I know you're not a big film guy. I don't really like this film a lot, but this is how I describe Tarpon Springs. It's like Mamma Mia without the music. So like
Right.
that's kind of what
Right.
Tarpon Springs is like. But Cyprus is actually very similar to America, but Cyprus doesn't have American problems. The
Right.
people, let's again ignore the Turkey stuff. Let's ignore that.
Yeah.
The people in the Greek Republic of Cyprus, they're not divided. They're not beefing with each other. You think that the Russians and the Greeks are arguing? No. The English and the Greeks, the English and the Russians aren't arguing. There's no like hatred there, at least in my experience.
Yeah.
Everyone's lovely. It's that Mediterranean lifestyle. Even the old people have so much life in them. They're playing chess on the beach. You know, you never see that in England or in Hungary or Slovakia. You never see that. So that's what I love about Cyprus. And also the weather is a little bit better than Florida.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because for me, I don't mind heat, but I can't stand humidity. So that was the big downside to, well, the Caribbean, Southeast Asia, etc. Basically the biggest like digital nomad hotspots in the world is just I just can't focus in that weather. You know, you go out for a walk, you just want to go out for a simple walk. You come back, you're like dripping in sweat. You just feel exhausted from the humidity and the heat. It's just I just don't think, and like you always have to be like, especially in Southeast Asia, a lot of places, like a lot of cafes in Vietnam, a lot of cafes don't have AC. And I don't know, like I guess the Vietnamese are just used to it, but like I can't work in a cafe that doesn't have AC, like 35 degrees, like 99% humidity. It's just like impossible.
Oh no,
and
yeah, it definitely is. Yeah,
I remember
no,
it rained
that's
one
like,
day for the first time in a month in Vietnam, and I was just like, I felt like I was in England. It was the only time I've ever liked rain in my life.
well, actually, no, I agree with you completely. Humidity, I guess I'm more used to it because I lived in Tampa for a little while, so I guess it's kind of like a. But with humidity, I don't like the, and I'm sure Cyprus has this too, and any other Levantine climate, dry Mediterranean region. But with Florida, with places like Queensland, these wet tropical areas, the bugs and the animals are
Terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with them. Like everyone says Australia, Australia has a lot of bugs. Florida is the only place in America that has the cockroaches that can fly, and no matter how alpha you are, if a cockroach starts flying at you, you're running. Like that's just the sad truth. So like the animals and the wildlife in tropical humid areas are just awful.
Yeah, you always end up with bugs everywhere and like huge spiders and snakes and whatever. I mean, also in Florida you have the crocodiles. So it's like I just prefer the dry Mediterranean climate. Like for me, that's the ideal climate for sure. And I was down in what's it called in Chile, and they actually have a Mediterranean climate down there where Santiago is, and it's like very nice, dry, warm climate.
Yes, Santiago looks great. I love the skyline. So I'm a big skyline guy. I have been ever since we last had a conversation. I've been very into skylines, and I can recognize most of them now. They have skyscrapers in Santiago, but that one big one that's like 300 meters.
It's the
It's like the best
building
one
in South America, so it's very recognizable.
Awesome. Yeah, it's awesome.
It's not like Panama where you have a bunch. You just have that one big, like, very recognizable skyscraper and the Andes Mountains in the background, which is just beautiful. Like, Santiago is beautiful because you can just see the Andes anywhere in the city.
Yeah, you really can't complain. And actually, that's what I loved about Slovenia, because I had never seen snow-topped mountains before I went to Slovenia. And when I went there, I was like, damn, this looks very nice. Like, it was my first time genuinely seeing them. So that's what I loved about it. And also, like, for South America, for me, one thing that I find kind of sad is that they, and I understand why, because it's horrible what happened, but I kind of wish they would have kept the Uruguayan Airlines Flight 571 fuselage at the crash site so that people could maybe visit it, and I'm sure you know the story, take a look at and just read about what happened.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie, but I understand there was a Uruguayan flight to Santiago, right? And it crashed in the Andes Mountains or something.
Yeah.
So what happened? Did the majority of people survive or not?
So I this is a real story. I've seen the film, but I knew about this before I saw the film. So off the top of my head, it was a college rugby team from Uruguay. They were flying to Santiago, I guess, for a tournament.
Right. Yeah.
Crashes in the Andes Mountains because the pilot got lost. As they're flying through the mountains, the plane splits open because it crashes into one of the peaks and it rips about half the passengers out, who none of them survived. They crash. Again, a few people die. Some people die a couple of days later because of injuries. And then they basically decide that they're going to try and survive. A couple of the guys, they hike to where the other half of the plane fell. They find all the bodies, they find the radio, but the radio, they can hear everything from the outside world, but they can't talk to the outside world.
Right.
So then they pretty much devise a plan that, okay, we're running out of rations, we're going to have to eat from the bodies of the dead people. So that's what they do. Eventually, about 30 or 40 days in, an avalanche comes in and kills about half the people who are still surviving. So that caused some even more issues. And then 3 guys at about day, I don't remember what day, but this is like day 50, so they've been there for over a month. They decide that they're just going to hike until they can find civilization again. And what sucks is, when they were on top of a mountain peak, this was in the film, but the guys also confirmed that this actually happened. They thought they saw a road, but they didn't want to risk it in case it wasn't a road, because then they'd get lost and they'd be screwed. So they decided not to go down that path, but it turned out it was a road, and it was so close to like a civilized town, but they didn't go that way. Eventually they get found, they get rescued by a cattle farmer. I think by now they've crossed the Chilean border. A helicopter goes back to the crash site, rescues all of them, and they survived 72 days in the Andes in horrendous conditions, pretty much so.
How did no search party find them in 72 days?
There was a search party, but I think I don't know the exact story, because again, the only way I can answer that is because
the Andes aren't that wide. Like it's not very wide at all, and I'm sure they would have known roughly. I mean, was this in the 60s or the 70s? Or
70s, yeah, the 70s.
Yeah, so I'm sure they would have roughly known where the plane was. That seems crazy how in 70 days they didn't find them.
Yeah, well, there's a theory that the reason why it crashed is because the pilot went completely off course. So maybe they were looking at where they thought the plane would be, but because they didn't know the plane was off course, maybe that's why. But even then, you'd look through the whole mountain range, I think. So it's not like, they can only be in this 5-kilometer square. No, you'd maybe look at the 20-kilometer square range. But yeah, it's a crazy story, and like, I wish they kept the fuselage there, but there isn't. But I think there's a cross where
kind
it is.
Like
but
that
like
bus, right? Isn't there like the bus in Alaska where the guy tried to? Isn't it like they made a movie about it called like Into the Wild or something, didn't they?
Oh yeah, I think that
like
I think
the guy was hiking
there.
alone or something, and didn't he like camp in the bus to try to survive? Or I don't remember the story, but I know that there's a abandoned bus in Alaska that's like very famous for a tragedy.
To be honest, I love those type of mysterious stories. Like there's a what was that place? There's a place, I think it's in America, but I don't remember. There's a place in America where it's like what was it? I don't. The things escape me. If I remember it later down the line, then I'll bring it up. But then let's move on. So let's go back to your travels.
One more thing. It's kind of like the fascination with like shipwrecks, right? It's like the same thing. It's like for me, I find shipwrecks. I want to visit shipwrecks. It's like, visiting a plane crash site would be very interesting, even though it's tragic. It's
Yeah, well, actually, I'd love to visit North Sentinel Island. I don't want to. Like, I'm not going to go through with it. But if I could, and if I was guaranteed that I would survive, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Because, like, I don't know how much you know about that place.
Lord Miles. You know Lord Miles, that guy.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I only know him because of North Sentinel Island.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only reason. But like, to be honest, I want him to go, but I don't want him to get killed over it. So it's
Well,
like,
he's gonna get killed if he goes. Like, come on.
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
but
wait. Is North Sentinel Island the one with the uncontacted tribe?
yes,
Is that the
off
correct
the coast
tribe?
of India.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because I remember there was a Christian missionary that went there, and he thought God was telling him to go there, and he got shot and killed.
Yep. Yeah. Well, he went there with a football and a cross. So if they evidently don't like soccer, so that's fine. But yeah, it's. I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that he deserved it, but also it's like, I don't know. I wouldn't go there because I know what would happen. Surely he knew that that was going to happen.
Yeah, but I just think some people do just really they really think I mean, when it comes to Christian missionaries, they do go to very dangerous places. Like, I know one personally that like went to Madagascar and got a gun pulled to his head, and it's like they do very dangerous things.
Yeah.
I don't know how he thought he was going to convert these guys to Christianity, but I mean, it's a respectable mission. Like, I respect what he did, but yeah, he must have known this wasn't going to go well. But yeah.
No. Would you ever go to North Sentinel?
I mean, I don't know enough about it. I'm not like fascinated by it because I guess I need to learn a bit more about it.
Yeah. There's not too much information on the internet, though. That's the sad thing.
Right. So it's just like basically the most notorious uncontacted tribe in the world, right? Because they're like,
yes,
apart from ones like like in Africa and in the Americas, this is like an island, so it truly is like fully uncontacted.
Yeah, like completely
uncontacted.
uncontacted.
Yeah.
No, the only documented cases where they have made contact was during the British Empire, where a sailor stole some of the islanders and then some of them died, so he returned the children with gifts.
Yeah,
that's the only documented thing. And there was some sources say it was an Indian woman, some say it was an Indian guy. I think it was a woman based upon the photographs that they made friendly contact in 1991. But like, they are the only uncontacted tribe, I believe, in the Indian Ocean, because the rest of them are either in Papua New Guinea or the Amazon rainforest.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you know, to them, if they truly are uncontacted, like, you know, a helicopter seems like a god, right? Or it seems like a UFO or whatever, and it's like that just must be inconceivable in their minds that this thing exists. I mean, imagine you've never seen a helicopter and a helicopter flies over. It would just be insane.
Yeah, there's a photograph actually from, you know, in 2004 when the tsunami hit Southeast Asia, like Thailand, Indonesia, those types of places. Yeah. Because that island is in the same region, they thought that the island would just be washed away. So the Indian government sent a helicopter, and the island was in pristine condition. Nothing happened, and the tribesmen ran out and started throwing spears at the helicopter, telling it to go away. So they really don't want contact with anyone. But, you know, we've talked about North Central Island travel. Is there any other country you've been to on your travels this year that you found to be the most surprising?
Surprising? I mean, not really. I mean, I kind of like had a good idea of these. I mean, a lot of times, yeah, people do like tell you stuff online, and your experience there is completely different. But I feel like Southeast Asia is pretty well summed up. I would say like Vietnam is pretty underdeveloped, and I don't think it's going to be the next China. You know, just from like living there for a little bit, and like I just found it, a bit too underdeveloped for me. Where Thailand is like at the level where it's just developed enough that it's actually really pleasant. I mean, even being in like a village, it's actually pretty nice in Thailand. You know, obviously people live a simple life, like in like a wooden house sometimes and whatever, but it's like it's developed. It's not like in Vietnam, people were like, I saw a dog like being slaughtered and eaten. So yeah, it's like some pretty like underdeveloped stuff in Vietnam.
Yeah, not gnarly stuff right there. That's
and there's just trash everywhere. It's a little bit like India. There was just a lot of trash everywhere. It stunk. Like it's just like it's like a beautiful place, not like loads of beautiful places, but it was a little bit underdeveloped. So it was
Yeah.
like, okay, so I went from Thailand to Japan. Sorry, from Thailand to Vietnam. It was like Thailand was amazing. Went to Vietnam, didn't really like it, and like because Vietnamese people are very rude. Like speak to anyone, they are like pretty rude. And then it was like I flew to Tokyo, and it was like I remember asking a guy in the airport for help, and I expected him to be rude to me, and he said he didn't speak English, and he pulled out this translator device out of his pocket. I like did this whole thing and like helped me, and it was just like I couldn't stop smiling for an hour straight when I arrived in Japan
Yeah.
because it was the best. It was like I was like finally back in the first world again. It was amazing.
Yeah, Japan is like, I can't say much in Japanese. I could probably survive in Japan because I know how to ask for water and rice, which is pretty much all
Yeah.
I need in life,
Yeah.
which just sounds kind of sad, but like, mizu kudasai, gohan kudasai, you know, so
Yeah.
I could definitely live
Japan,
in Japan.
like Japan is probably one of my favorite countries. I don't want to sound like the typical guy loving Japan, but I didn't really know. I know a lot of people are fascinated by Japan and they like watch anime and they learn a bit of Japanese. I didn't really know much about Japan before I went, but like some of the friendliest people I've ever met, some of the best infrastructure in the world, best food in the world, extremely safe. It was just like such a pleasant place to be, especially after being in like Vietnam and India. It's like Japan is amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and to be honest, one thing that I love about Japan is their permanent residency, because a lot of countries around the world that obviously have PR, it's like if you're out of the country for over a year, it's gone. Japan is 5 years, so you only need to be in Japan like once every 5 years, which to keep your PR, which I think is great because they don't allow dual nationality. I've had a guy on who said that he found a loophole because he has triple nationality, but you know that loophole, it technically
I
works,
think PR
but it's
would be
also
good enough though, because you're never
Yeah,
going to be
100%.
fully accepted as Japanese anyway. So I think PR is good enough. in a
Oh
place
yeah,
like
100%. And like even if the loophole does work, which I'm sure it does, it evidently does. I don't want to take that risk. Whereas, you know, let's say I become a Japanese citizen and one day they call me saying, "Why haven't you renounced your other passport?"
Japan.
So
Japan is the type of country
yeah.
to do that as well. So
Yes,
But-
yeah. So PR for me
yeah.
would be like the top goal in Japan.
well, I mean, yeah, I would want to raise a family in Japan, but the only downside I see is Japan has very, very high taxes, around like 50%. I haven't looked into it, but I'm sure there's some ways to bring that down. But that really does seem like the biggest downside with Japan, like very, very high taxes.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about your experiences in Latin America, because
Right.
obviously if anyone follows you on Twitter, they will see that hell, even Javier Milei has acknowledged you. So
Yeah.
you know you've done pretty much any Buenos Aires loving tweet that you do, where it's like, as Europe falls, Buenos Aires is the best place on earth. It always does well. Minimum a few 100,000 views, but you know that one got about 3.5 million. I think I checked this morning. So I mean, did that tweet, that 3.5 million view tweet, did that just accidentally pop off, or did you like plan for that tweet to go viral?
Basically, yeah, I just kind of like wrote it like randomly, and I was like, oh wow, this is getting really popular. And then I realized like, okay, I think I figured out the algorithm here. There's certain ways you can go viral on Twitter. But yeah, like that was like crazy how that went viral, because I had like basically no followers on Twitter. I had like 300 followers or something, and it just went viral. And there was people on, you know, because I think I said, while Europe is falling, you should be Buenos Aires maxing. And it went viral on Instagram as well. Someone screenshotted it and put exactly what the Nazis said in the 1940s. And it went viral on, it was like, yeah, that's not what I meant, but yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of people use that reference, and it's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. But yeah.
No. That, to be honest, that is a Stretch Armstrong and a half right there. Like when I saw that tweet, that was not what I thought about.
Yeah, that's
to be honest,
not what
most
I
of
was
them went
thinking
to.
about as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
most
quite
of
when
the
people said that.
Yeah, most of the ones I got away with it went to Chile anyway, and Brazil, so it doesn't even make sense geographically. But like, yeah, that tweet, and is that the one that?
It's just a very cliche thing, right? It's like people associate Argentina with Nazis.
Is that 3.5 million view tweet the one that the president liked?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would go very viral. Yeah.
Citizenship by exception. Any possibility with that?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty easy to become an Argentinian citizen. It's not difficult.
Yeah, I definitely want to. That is something that is on the very high end of my list. And also, like with Argentina, do you think Chile has better beaches because it's on the Pacific? Because Atlantic beaches, Atlantic coastlines aren't that good, unless maybe like South Africa.
Well,
But Pacific coastlines always seem to be a bit better.
but you have like Brazil though, and Uruguay actually has some good beaches. I just think Argentina just got unlucky, like you because Uruguay does have some good beaches, and it's like literally, 100 miles away from Buenos Aires, and they have great beaches. But yeah, Chile has a place called Viña del Mar, which is very beautiful with beaches. Very, very beautiful.
Have you gone across any borders in that region?
Yeah. Well, I've crossed from Argentina to Uruguay and crossed from Argentina to Chile.
What is it like going through? Because I imagine those are Mercosur borders. Do they have border control, or is it open border?
No, it's not open border. I mean, well, Chile is a Mercosur associate member, not full Mercosur, where Uruguay is full Mercosur, but it's nothing like the EU. I mean, Chile and Argentina do have a unique thing because the border, it's like one of the highest borders in the world. I think it's like 6,000 meters or something like that. It's like crazy high up in the Andes Mountains. And basically, when you leave Argentina, you only go through Chilean border control. And when you enter Argentina, you only go through, vice versa, because they like process you leaving the other country and entering because I just think it wasn't feasible to build, and it just wasn't feasible to have all this like traffic and two border checkpoints. So they simplified it, and that's like the only place where it really is simplified. But there are some weird Mercosur things where, do you know Ciudad del Este in Paraguay?
Yep.
Where like Brazilian citizens can technically cross into Ciudad del Este for 2 days without a passport, and it's like borders in that region are a little bit it's a bit weird in that region, but there's a lot of like drug trafficking and stuff like that going on in the triple frontier with Paraguay, Brazil, and Argentina.
Yeah, because like I don't remember what border this is. I think it might be Argentina and Paraguay. Right. If you look on the map, it's kind of weird because like they have a natural border, which is a river or like a water body of some sort. Yeah. But then there's an island in the middle, but that belongs to that island fully belongs to one, but it's surrounded by let's say that island belongs to Argentina. It's fully surrounded by Paraguayan waters.
Right.
So for me, like that whole border zone is like it's not as bad as the Belgium-Netherlands border where it's like all over the place, dots everywhere. It's like, bruh, come on. But for me, that was a little bit complex.
I mean, the thing about South America is it's usually a natural border, right? Like with South America, so it's not as you don't get like micro states and weird borders as much as in Europe. Yeah, because European borders are the best in the world, by far.
yeah, they are. Like, I don't know what my favorite border is actually. Maybe the gym. Well, maybe not
this
anymore.
This is getting pretty niche now. What's my favorite border?
The Sino-Tibetan border is very underrated, even though it technically doesn't exist anymore. But because I was wondering, because like obviously you hear about bad border experiences, corruption. I know people who've had terrible experiences in some external Schengen area borders where they were literally almost murdered because they refused to pay a bribe. So,
which countries were these?
Ukraine.
Like it was the Ukrainians doing this, or the crossing into Schengen doing this?
The Ukrainians.
Oh wow.
But this was like 20 years ago. 20 years ago, so who knows now?
I think Moldova probably is a little bit like that now, and that's probably the only one left where I've only ever heard dodgy things about Moldova.
You've messaged me that you've explored some places in Europe not too long ago. You were in Germany, and then you said you had a bit of a bad experience, then you went up to some Baltic countries, and then you seem to have a bit of a better opinion of those. And, I'm not too sure where you are now, but, what are your experiences like back in Europe?
So I was in Estonia, and I would say Estonia is, the best post-Soviet country by far. They've definitely done the best. It's very advanced. They have like autonomous robots going around delivering food on the streets. And yeah, it's like I didn't expect it. And also, like actually really good public transport. Like obviously Bolt was from Estonia. like founded in Estonia. So you can basically just like rent a car on your phone and just drive it to your destination and it like unlock it. It's like a car sharing, but it's really convenient. And yeah, Estonian people are like very friendly, but you do see this divide where some people speak Russian and some speak Estonian. And I think there's like, if you only speak Russian, you have like it's like kind of the underclass speak Russian, and it's harder for them to get jobs, and there's a bit of a divide in the country when it comes to that.
Yeah, well, like Estonian is one of the hardest languages in the world. Like it's so similar to Finnish, like it actually is.
It
But
sounds. I love hearing that language compared to Russian, though. It's a much nicer language to listen to. It sounds
it is,
much
yeah,
happier,
and
like than Russian.
yeah, and it's like Finnish and Estonian are very similar, just based upon their words, how they sound, everything. Like Hungarian in the Uralic terms is like the most isolated from that family branch, but Finnish and Estonian is like kieli means language and tongue in Finnish. Kiel is the same principle in Estonian. I don't remember what hello is, but I think it's similar to terve, like in Finnish.
Teddy in
Okay, so it's very similar then. But like Estonian, I like how they roll the R's, and also like there's a common joke in I think in Estonia where it's like the Finns go there for cheaper alcohol. So
they do. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Estonia is really cool. And it's like I think it's got the most startups in the world per capita. So the government is really trying to do a lot to encourage entrepreneurship in the country.
And I think they're the only country in Europe that has digital residency, which doesn't actually mean anything, but like if you check the T's and C's,
easier and it's nothing to do with actual residency. It's just
it's not. Yeah, no, it's not. I think it's the same with Palau. I don't think the Palau in digital residency allows you to live in Palau. It does actually let you
stay in the country for up to 6 months a year. So they do have
fair enough.
I mean, yeah, the Palau thing is again, it's like you're basically paying for the ID. But they do promise stuff in the future.